to the Good Life, Great Careers podcast. My name is Caitlin Betts, and I'm the Director of Talent Acquisition for the state of Nebraska. I'm joined today again by my co-host, Brian Civic, the Director of Workforce Training and Development for the state of Nebraska. The state of Nebraska is a great place to start or grow your career. In fact, Nebraska state government is one of the largest and most diverse employers in the state when it comes to career opportunities. We currently have a ton of opportunity, and it ranges from everything in corrections to park workers to nursing to doctors to office. I could go on and on. There's a little bit of everything. So if you're looking for a meaningful career, we probably have something in your career field. Our careers are all posted at statejobs.nebraska.gov. And if you stay tuned till the end, we'll give you some specific directions on how to find those and apply for those opportunities of interest to you. As we've shared with you in prior episodes, we're excited to share more of the great careers in the state government with you through this podcast. Each episode features a different state teammate as our guest, and they share with us their own career journey in public service, providing some insights and tips, and perhaps even some opportunities within their own agency. Today is special as we're honored to host two guests who not only will share with you about their own careers in public service, but also have unique programs within their agency that they're excited to share with us today as well. Today we have Director Scott Frakes and Warden Craig Gable from the Department of Correctional Services. Director Frakes and Warden Gable, welcome, and thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having us.
We'd love to start off by just getting to know you both a little bit better. So if you would share with us just a little bit about who each of you are.
So I'm Craig Gable. I'm, like you said, I'm currently the warden at the Tecumseh State Correctional Institution. A little bit about me is I'm born and raised Nebraskan. I grew up in Omaha. And I'm a father of 3 kids, married. I'm happily married. I've got an amazing family and a wife that supports me tremendously. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, I am Scott Frakes, and I have been in this business now for just about 6 weeks short of 40 years. So it's been kind of become my life's work. Born and raised in Washington State, entered corrections in 1982 in Walla Walla, Washington, which was my hometown, and worked my way up through that department, starting as a correctional officer and leaving there as a deputy director in 2015. Then I became a Nebraska transplant, arriving here January 31st of 2015, taking over as director that following Monday, and have had the joy of being a part of and leading the Department of Correctional Services here in Nebraska for now over 7.5 years.
So if you could both take a little bit of time, just share with our listeners, and this may be a really difficult question to answer, but what's a day in the life? What's a typical day look like, I guess, for each of you? And I'm sure it varies a lot, but what would a typical day look like for you?
Well, I bet Craig's dying to know what I do for a living. So, it's interesting because I spent 29 years working inside of prisons. And for the last 7 of those years, there were 7 of those years where I was a warden. So I'd certainly have that piece of it. But as they say, you can't really know what a job is like until you sit in the chair. And there were certainly a lot of things about being a director of a Department of Corrections that I could have never anticipated. So my average day is a fair amount of meetings, some day meetings back-to-back from 7:30, 7:45 until 5 o'clock at night, both internally and with all the different external stakeholders that I have. It's reviewing documents, it's reviewing policies, it's answering a litany of emails, and then it's also being available for the issues that come up, sometimes many times a day. But fortunately, I have a great team who takes care of pretty much most of that business. So they may be just coming to tell me, here's what I plan to do, not what do I need to do, which makes it nice. But it is a lot of paperwork and a lot of meetings, and then when I'm able to get my schedule balanced, like I have it right now, it's getting out to the facilities, which we were able to do 2 town halls this week, where I can just share information and engage with staff. And that's one of my most favorite parts of the job. And I've got those scheduled at all the facilities in the next 6 weeks. So it's a good time for me.
Greg, how about you?
Well, certainly not on the scale as a director, but lots of meetings also, reviewing lots of paperwork, I do spend a fair amount of my time in the facility, talking with the teammates there in the incarcerated population, getting to know them, trying to solve some of their problems and help them the best that I can, and really trying to steer my facility in the right direction. Is challenging, but I would echo that. You don't quite know what you're getting into until you actually sit in the office, and no 2 days are the same in corrections. You think you have a plan on what your day is going to look like going in, and it generally does not turn out that way. So that's a really good part of the job that I like, is just the different variety of things that you come across. Keeps it interesting.
So you say no 2 days are alike, and you were maybe didn't know what to expect. What have you found to be most surprising about working in your current role, or just the corrections field in general?
Oh, wow. The most surprising for me, I think, is just how much satisfaction you can get with working with the people in our communities that our community has said they can't live in our communities, they can't be our neighbors, but the tremendous amount of satisfaction that you can receive from working with those types of people and trying to help them better themselves. And on the same side of that coin is working day to day with the people that say, I want to be a corrections officer. It's a very rewarding field.
It's definitely not surprising that recruitment might be difficult right now. We have extremely low unemployment, and you just mentioned working with people that want to be corrections officers. What does recruiting individuals into that field look like for you guys?
Well, for me, at the head of the agency level, that's been a 7.5+ year struggle until last December. And we haven't fixed everything, but we made some significant changes that have moved us faster and in ways that I didn't think we could achieve. So we tried so many strategies. We tried media and advertising and social media and networking and using every tool that we could come across to reach people. We continued to work with all the different stakeholders that I have to work with, the budget office, the governor's office, which is really part of the budget, the governor's office, working with DAS, and working with the unions that represent a lot of my staff to try and get wages at a point that they're competitive, but we seemed like we were always chasing that world. And in December, we reached some historic agreements with the unions, unprecedented increases. And it wasn't just the pay increases and the structure of those. It was also the fact that we did some historically high recruitment bonuses, bonuses to staff who recruit staff, and bonuses to staff who come to work for us, and moving expenses, which has led to we're about 8 months now. But since the beginning of December, we brought in over 500 new staff in our agency. From 40 different states, about 250 of those from out of state. Yeah, wow, exactly, wow. I'm still saying wow. It just couldn't have imagined that we'd have that. And better yet, because we have known all along that while recruitment is part of how you start to address the overall issue, it's the retention. That's where the real answer is. Our turnover numbers are the best they've been since at least 2010, and maybe the best we've had. So we're on track to cut our turnover in half. Thank you. It's
fantastic to hear that these stories and the initiatives that are being taken and the difference that it's making. I know it's probably early, maybe it's too early, but have you seen with it comes to retention and now with it, where the numbers are with that, is it comparable or is it better than what maybe other states are seeing, or is it how do you have that? Of how that compares.
Just anecdotally at this point, my sense though is that it is pushing us more, instead of being on the bottom end of turnover. In fact, our first year turnover at one point was about 50% for our correctional corporals. So, you hire 2 people, you lose one within 12 months. You
That's
can't
rough.
get ahead. Right now we're tracking closer to maybe 1 in 5. You can get ahead with those kind of numbers. So I'd say we're going to move to somewhere in the middle of the pack, and then if this trend continues, we're going to start to be one of the leaders across the country. We certainly are one of the leaders in compensation at this point.
That's great. And, setting the state apart and being proactive like that, it's just great to hear those stories and those initiatives being taken and making a difference. And, I thank you. One thing, I want to say is just thank you for what your agency does, the service that you guys do. It's not easy work, but it's incredibly important work. And so I know we appreciate that on this podcast. And so thank you for your service and the service of your teammates. Craig, you alluded a little bit to kind of what fills your bucket in your career, but I was wondering if you guys could talk about that a little bit, because I think sometimes there can be a negative perception sometimes of the correctional services, that having worked in state government, having relationships with people there, I know people outside of work that work there who love their job. I know it's fulfilling for many people. So I guess if you could share a little bit of just what fills your bucket, what is the most enjoyable aspect of your job? What makes you love what you do?
So when I started in corrections, I came to corrections just for a job. I was looking for something steady, something with some benefits. And when I got to a certain institution and got around some certain people, I got exposed to leadership. And it wasn't really until then that it really clicked for me, where it changed from a job to a career. And it was more about what I can do for other people, what I can do for other people, and really how I can try and help people become a little better, just from having spoke to them or having been their coworker or having been their supervisor. And that's why I come to work every day, is the opportunity that I get to try and make people's lives better.
Well, much like Craig, I came to this because I needed a job. It was in the height of the early 80s recession, and I was trying to run a small business, and nobody was going to build a swimming pool, and nobody had a job. And I had a wife who had a child on the way. So my friend said, come check this out. I think you'll like it. Sure enough, I did like it, more than I could have ever imagined. But one of the things that burned into my brain that I'll never forget is the very first day on the job in orientation, when the leader of the class said, look, nobody wants to know about what you do. Nobody cares about us. You're better off not telling people what you do for a living, or just kind of leave that here at the job. And I thought, well, it's a good thing I don't plan to stay. And here it is 40 years later. What happened to me, first of all, was that leadership piece. I was fortunate to have some incredibly good mentors, including one that I talk about who took me aside and said, just stop being, well, I can't say the words that he used, but, if you would get your act together, you could be somebody. And he was the first one to say, in fact, you could run a prison. And I thought, I'd like to do that. And so then I had other mentors, other folks who pushed me along, and once I got into greater leadership roles, I really loved that piece of it. At the same time, probably about 5 years in, I started to really work with inmates around programming and treatment and other issues, even though I was still in the uniform custody ranks. I did that for 15 years and loved that just as much. So I was one of the few in the Washington system that was in uniform that was facilitating programming, which was a challenge in terms of who I was facilitating to, because they were all kind of like, what are you doing here? And then my coworkers weren't quite on board with that either. So today it's a little more normal than we still have work to do, but we've made a lot of headway in terms of engaging our uniformed staff in that kind of work. So it was that love for leadership and the love for working with the population, and then ultimately figuring out that we really do make a difference, that 93% of the people with us are coming back to the community. 66% are back in 3 years or less. And the work that we do makes a difference. We just got the fabulous news that our recidivism rate has trended downward for the third year in a row, and we are now down below the magic 30% mark. We hit 29.8%, which translates to a 70.8% success rate. And in our business, if you get to 25%, you're the leader of the pack. So we got a little ways to go, but we're making good headway.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about what your agency does as far as maybe overall development. And you've alluded to some of it or talked a little bit about it, but overall development of your teammates, but then specifically the leadership aspect of it, of what you're doing to invest into your teammates to help with that retention and their personal growth and making them successful in their career.
Sure. So the state of Nebraska, the Department of Corrections, really offers so many different opportunities to its employees to take advantage of many different things. Personally, early in my career, I took advantage of some tuition reimbursement and attended University of Nebraska Omaha's Certified Public Manager Program, which is a year-long program that talks about different public administrative type courses with leadership. I also took advantage of the tuition reimbursement to complete my master's degree in public administration. And then from my facility standpoint, we've got a great partnership with Peru State College that is, to our knowledge, the only kind of partnership in the country with a corrections agency and a state college, to where we really prepare students to transition into leadership roles in our facilities. So with that, we offer specific classes for our Peru State students to participate in our own internal leadership classes. So by the time they're out of college, they've got a 4-year degree, they've got corrections experience, and they've got some leadership skills also that they've acquired during their schooling. So that's a little bit about what we have going on.
Craig mentioned the Peru program. Definitely, I keep talking to my peers, and I've had many of them say, tell me more, share information. It is unique, and what an opportunity. I think back, if somebody had said to me, I'll give you a full ride for 4 years, and I'll give you a part-time job that pays over $20 an hour, and when you're done, if you like it as much as we hope you do, you could be a correctional sergeant or right in line to be a correctional lieutenant. So what an amazing thing to have to offer. But the leadership training that we do with our staff in-house has continued to evolve. It started off really better than I could have hoped, and now it's about in its third evolution. And it's quality. The reviews at the end of it are always good. I make time out of my schedule to interact with the group on day 1 and then again on day 5, so I can do that. Okay, how many of you really want to be here? And then on day 5, how many of you are glad you were here? And there's usually a few hands on Monday and everybody's hand on Friday. And that's what I'm looking for. We give people opportunities to look for outside training, including the amount of stuff offered at the state level in Nebraska. Now that's a difference that we did not have in Washington, and it is amazing. Some really well thought out, effective programs. And so I'm really happy that we have the opportunity to offer that to people, and I'm really, really happy that people like Craig and many other leaders in my agency take advantage of that.
I think you have a really great point that there may be opportunity through the Great Resignation and retirements, and I think that's one of the cool things about the state of Nebraska, and it sounds like the same is true within your agency, as I've heard from others, that you have the opportunity to be a leader earlier in your career than maybe some private sector employers. So I think that's awesome that you mentioned that, and I'm excited to hear about some of those programs that you've spoken about.
Okay, that seems like perfect lead-in for me to tell a story, so I'm going to do it. Yes, absolutely. And in fact, my collective team at the headquarters level, we often talk about, first of all, where's our bench, where's our strength, who can we tap into? And then we got some great people, but boy, compared to our experiences coming into this business, they are young. I met Craig as a young lieutenant, 2015 at Tecumseh, made a good impression. And then my wife and I are at the zoo in Omaha, and we run into Craig and his family, and he's right there with his hand out. And so we talked for a little while, and then we're walking away. And my wife, who worked in corrections for about 25 years, said, I think that guy's got something. I said, yeah, I know that guy's got something. So 2015 lieutenant, into 2021 warden of a facility. When I started in this business, you'd spend 20 years as a lieutenant before you could make it to captain.
One thing I've learned about you and really appreciate is the humor you bring. I mean, and you alluded to it in your last answer a little bit, but there's this lightheartedness, this fun aspect of just bringing humor in the workplace, which I would imagine has to be just very refreshing, just in any workplace, but, in the field of corrections. Would you be willing to share a little bit about that, of just how you work that into your leadership, how, the importance of that in the correction field, of just having, fun at work as well, and having that humor. And then also, as I told you, my boss wants you to share your favorite pun with us as well.
That last piece, I'm still drawing a blank, but I'm hoping it comes out. I really do like that question, because I tell people in leadership training and just in mentoring conversations, I'm very, very serious about this work, and just a line of work, corrections, law enforcement, just social services in general. There's all the reason in the world to just be serious all the time. But if you are always just serious, it will have bad impacts on your health. So learn to find ways to laugh, learn to find appropriate ways to have fun and engagement with each other. And most importantly, learn to laugh at yourself. That's the number one advice I give any leader, up and coming or long established. If you can't laugh at yourself, you're going to struggle. You're going to take things too personal. You're going to overanalyze and overreact to the mistakes you made. We are human, and we are going to make mistakes. And I find irony hilarious, and I'm one ironic guy. So it's easy for me to find things to laugh about. And at the same time, that doesn't mean that I am not absolutely committed to and serious about everything that we do. So it's that piece. And laughter is the best medicine kind of piece of it as well. And I've certainly had to learn through the years how to be appropriate, as well as, that's not just what you say, but the timing of it as well. And then I've also had the challenge of learning how to manage up and try to get the people above me to embrace that to some degree. I had one supervisor in particular who just didn't seem to have a sense of humor about anything, and I finally got her. There, just a little bit. Never in public, but at least one-on-one. So, but I think bottom line is it's healthy for yourself, it's healthy for the organization, and also it has served me well in my engagement with the population that we serve. Probably very early in my career, I was guilty of dropping down to that street level because somebody gave me the advice that was a good way. And then shortly into it, I realized that it wasn't me. I was somewhere in the middle. I'm certainly quite capable of saying a dirty word if I need to or feel I need to. But the best conversations I was having with the population we served were more respectful, higher level actually, and helping them to come up rather than me dipping down. And then with that, as you build that rapport and that engagement, weaving in some humor, I was able to get what I needed from the people that I was responsible for without barking orders and without being over authoritarian. I got better results. It was easier on me and it was easier on them, and so I just built from there.
Kind of in line with that, I mean, not only humor, but you mentioned fun and having engagement with your teammates. What are some of the things that you do as an agency to really create that environment that's fun and maybe not your stereotypical government, we don't have any fun, but how do you overcome that in your agency?
So some of the things that we've done recently to try and help with our upward trajectory of morale are a lot of employee food days. We put a really big focus on recognition. We've done a tremendous job of spotlighting our employees and giving them something to be proud of in social media. We've had, on the population side of things, we've had some opportunities for them to bring their families in and have special days to where they can spend time with their children. So we try and keep it lighthearted. as best we can. So.
What would you say to anyone who's out there in the job market, looking for a job, looking for a career, and maybe either hasn't considered a job in the public sector, specifically in correctional services, or maybe even sees that and says, I don't know if that's really for me, and you had a chance to sit down and talk to them about the opportunity, what would you say to convince them of maybe considering that as a career path?
You can't really know what it's like to work in a prison until you come to work in a prison, and people have lots of perceptions and conceptions and fears, much of it based on television and movies that are far, far from accurate. Part of the challenge that documentary series have when they come into most facilities is getting enough exciting and interesting footage, because day after day, it's just a little small town with not really much more going on than any average small town, which is a good thing. Yes, we train people how to be safe, and we give them the tools and the skills to be safe. And you've got to have the right makeup and psyche to be comfortable in that setting. What people also don't realize is, again, they are small towns, and some of our bigger facilities are mid-sized towns. They've got a wide range of opportunities. So it isn't just about putting on a uniform and becoming a correctional corporal. We've got work in security. We've got work in counseling. We've got work in treatment. We've got work in healthcare, in mental health, in food service, in engineering, and a host of other supporting services. So, and we have opportunities in almost every job class that we represent. So we're probably, if maybe HHS is broader, but I bet we're as broad as HHS in terms of the variety of job opportunities they have. And what I tell new hires is, doesn't matter what you came in the door today, as you look around, we want to help you. If you want to be the best correctional corporal for the next 20 years, we're going to give you the training and skills and help keep you motivated. If you want to move up through those ranks, and that's a great path to follow, it's the one I followed, worked out well for me, we'll help you do that. If you look around and you go, gosh, this is all right, but I kind of like to do that maintenance thing. That looks like that'd be fun. We'll help you do that. So you can come into corrections, especially in the facility end of corrections, and you can move around. You can get the variety of employment, the variety of opportunities that I sense today's work generation, workforce really looks for. It's not that same old. It's not the boomer workforce that came in and said, "Okay, I'm here for the next 30 years. Tell me where to stand." People want variety. They want opportunities to grow. They want opportunities to try things. We can provide all that.
Well, I think in addition to all those opportunities, one thing that we offer that I don't think a lot of folks do is public service can be incredibly rewarding. And the opportunities that you get coming through the door to interact with a population is unlike anything else that you'll ever get. And then also is our teammates, our teams in each of our institutions are incredible. I don't think that you'll find many businesses, many teams that are as tight-knit and family-oriented as some of ours. And I think that's something that really fills people's buckets also.
I'm going to go back to what you were saying about public service being rewarding. I 100% agree with you on that, and there's a lot of opportunity to make a difference in a lot of different ways. You both have impressive careers in public service. What's something that really sticks out to you most, a rewarding situation or what you bring to the table?
So I've got a small story to try and capture that answer. Early in my career, I was a lieutenant, and I had a group of people that were sergeants for me on my shift. We worked really well together. I tried to help and coach them and mentor and guide them along the way. And then our paths kind of veered, and I went into a different position. I still stayed in contact with those four people. And one day I ran into one of them who was attending one of our leadership academies trainings. And they said, well, would you like to go to lunch? And I said, sure, I haven't seen you for a while, so, I'll catch up. And we went to lunch, and three other people that had worked on the same shift with me were there. And we're sitting around this table all just having a good laugh and reminiscing. And one of them said, do you know that we were all sergeants for you? And it took me a second, and I said, wow, that's right, And to me, that's the most satisfaction, the most rewarding thing, accolade, award, anything that I've gotten in my career, is to think that I had a little bit of something to do, even if it was just a little nudge for some of them, to help them become better people, better employees, better teammates along the way. So for me, that's the most rewarding.
So if our listeners are interested in learning more about your agency and the opportunities that are there, where can they go to learn about that?
I'm going to say the best place is our website. It's easy to access. Yeah, I should know it off the top of my head. Yeah, I didn't think so. I can get there. I think it's just ndcs.gov, but anyway, it's pretty short. Yeah, but our website has a ton of information about who we are, what we do, and how to access employment opportunities. And we've got recruitment staff. We've got a great human resources and human talent team that's
they're talented too.
They are talented, and they have demonstrated that since last December. So we want to hear from you. We want to talk to you. And if it's just to explore, again, what I talked about before, until you put your toe in the water, you can't really know what we're about.
Well, I encourage people also to check out our social media pages. There's a lot of great information, great pictures, and little snippets of the great stuff that we do across our agency every day. So check that out.
Anything else that we haven't covered that you guys would like to share today?
Well, so we talked, I think we covered the leadership piece. Craig mentioned the Gallup work. That's been an amazing opportunity. That only happened because a private donor said, I'll provide this much, you find the rest. And because it was pretty substantial, that gives me the leverage I need to go to the other decision makers and get the money. And that has been a phenomenal partnership and relationship, and we continue to see benefits from that. So those kind of things. One of the most amazing things for me in coming to Nebraska was the amount of private community support. We have received millions of dollars in private money to help with programming, with staff activities, with staff development. There again, that was not something that I experienced in my past role. So kudos to the citizens of Nebraska, and thank you to Pete Ricketts for giving me this opportunity.
All right. You guys ready for the hot seat questions?
Yes.
All right. So we'll start off with I think these are probably easy ones. Nothing real controversial here a bit. So what's your favorite number?
1.
1, okay.
Yes.
God. I'm gonna go with 7 today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So any particular reason? Or?
No,
Okay.
none whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Would you rather climb a mountain or skydive?
I've done both.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah. At this point in time, I don't think I could make it back up a mountain. And the only reason I wouldn't do the skydiving thing again is because it was 9 hours of prepping and then 20 minutes of sitting in an airplane climbing to 10,000 feet. And then, 3 minutes of combination of terror and exhilaration. So the end result was worth it. And then I think back to, God, it was a long day to squeeze into that tight little suit and then step out on the wing of that airplane. That was the terror part. Yeah. Then once you're falling, it's like you can't really do much about it. So, hope the chute works.
Was it here in Nebraska you did it? Or was
No,
it
this is back in Washington.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, a long time ago. Lesson learned there is you shouldn't bring your small children with you when mom and dad both go and this was solo. This was a guided but solo, weren't strapped to somebody.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But in the end, it was a hoot.
Wow.
I don't think I'd have the courage to jump out of an airplane. So I would much rather climb a mountain.
All right. Lake McConaughey or Platte River?
Well, I'd choose Lake McConaughey. The walleye fishing out there is excellent. So have to go with that.
And I have yet to make it to the lake, but I have looked at the Platte many times, so I'm going with the lake.
Probably a good choice, yeah. What movie can you watch over and over again? What's your go-to?
Galaxy Quest.
Oh my gosh. So I'm more of a TV show, documentary type guy.
Okay.
So I don't think I could pick a particular movie.
Okay, so what's your TV show or documentary that?
Well, I like a lot of like the murder mystery documentaries on Netflix. So those are my thing.
What's the most valuable leadership guidance you've been given?
Mine has been to put your people first. Very simple concept. Put your people first. Make sure you take care of your people, and they'll take care of you.
I had a lot of them. I mentioned earlier one of them that I couldn't say it in full, but I think the one that comes to mind right now is, and I got this one 30 years ago, and that's, as a leader, if you're not taking care of the problem, you are the problem. So I've tried to live by that.
That's good. What's your favorite fall activity?
Wow. For me, I really enjoy watching football.
Yes.
You're a
Yes.
Husker fan?
Notre Dame fan.
Okay.
Yep, Notre Dame fan. Go
We still
Irish.
like you. Are they going to join the Big Ten, you think, eventually?
I think I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so.
Well, this may sound odd, but actually the first time I rake leaves,
Okay.
especially if it's just that right day where it's kind of cool but not too cold, and it just has that fall smell. And yeah. Now about the fourth time, no, I'm all done with that. I'm done.
All right. If you could choose a superpower, what would you choose?
I think mine would be able to predict a future. I think I would like that.
I'm going to go with read minds. I think I'd regret it, but I think it'd be fun for a while.
So you could predict the future, and then you could read his mind and know the future as well. Yeah.
There you go.
All right. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh,
You guys do karaoke?
I do not do karaoke,
Okay.
but I would have to pick an easy one like Freebird or Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. Something
that's a good
easy.
choice.
Something
Yeah.
easy that I could do.
Yeah.
No, I have sat and watched people do karaoke, but I just, it's funny. I'm in a business where I've been presented with a lot of very life and death frightening kind of opportunities and just powered through them. But I don't think you can get me up there to do that. I just, singing in public, that's terrifying.
If you could travel anywhere, where would you go? What would be your destination, your dream destination place to go?
For me personally, there's just so many places left in America that I want to go see. And I still kind of have that retirement bucket list idea that we're going to get out and hit the road and do that. The national parks, been to a few, but there's so many of them that I'd love to see. And other than that, I haven't traveled a lot outside of the United States. I've done a little bit. I probably would like to see, okay, I think I'm going to answer this a little bit differently. You know what I'd like to do more than anything? I would love to go to Detroit and do a ride around with law enforcement and go see the grittiest of the gritty side of Detroit, but not something I'm going to do on my own.
On my bucket list, on our bucket list, my wife and I's, we want to go to Italy. Eventually, someday.
Is that your ancestry? Are you from there? Or you just
no,
love that culture?
like
or?
the architecture, the history of the Colosseum and things like that. Just something that we'd like to see.
Really good food too.
Yeah, that's a benefit. That's a benefit.
Any final career advice you'd give someone looking to grow their career?
If you haven't tried it yet and you're thinking about what do I want to do with life, come take a look at us, because again, we have an incredible variety of opportunities. We're growing for the right reasons. We're not growing to put more people in prison. We're growing because of the retirements and the turnover. We're growing because of some needed expansion. And if you're already in the business, don't get stale. This is what I tell people. Don't let yourself get stale. When I was an officer, I made it a point to look for a new position, different hours, different days off. I started thinking about it after a year so I could be there in 18 months. And then I worked my way through promotions. I moved around, worked 6 different prisons in Washington State, and then ultimately moved from the security side into the management side. So there's no reason to get stale in the business of corrections. There's so many different opportunities.
And I would echo that. There's, so many different things that you can do in our business and within our agency. I've been with corrections for 11 years, and I've worked in 7 different prisons. There's so many different things that can keep you engaged and keep you energized and wanting to come to work every day. It's just you don't understand it until you're in with us in our family. So we truly are a family, and we do have a lot to offer. So.
All right. Well, that's great, and I appreciate both of you. I want to thank both of you, Director Frakes and Warden Gable, for your time today. I know you guys are very busy, and so appreciate you taking a little bit of time and spending it with us and sharing some of your experiences with our listeners. To our listeners, if you want to check out any of the great career opportunities, including those with the Nebraska Department of Correctional Services, please go to statejobs.nebraska.gov. And while you're there, click on the Find a State Job link. While you are there, you can also find links to our Nebraska State Job social media channels on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. And we would love to have you follow us to learn even more about the great career opportunities that are here in state government. You can also check us out on YouTube. Just search for Nebraska Department of Administrative Services on YouTube. And if you hit that subscribe button on there, you'll be notified when we have future podcast episodes drop. So again, on behalf of our guest, Director Frakes, and Warden Gable, my co-host Caitlin Betts, and myself, Brian, I just want to thank each of our listeners for tuning in today and listening to this episode and learning more about the great careers in the good life.